Hey tribe, Sally here. Hope you're having an amazing and fascinating day. I know I am. Welcome back to another Monday Milepost Mailbag, and look who we've got right here. We've got Kit. We do. He's such a good boy. He's so adorable. I really hope that those of you that are planning to come to the meetup understand that you may not be able to meet him in person. We're going to see how he does. He's such a good boy with me, and he's so adorable. He's just not all that people friendly all the time, but we'll see how that goes. Anyway, thank you so much for being here. I really have had an amazing and fascinating day, and in fact, my day is mostly over. It's almost 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and I'm finally sitting down to film this, which is not the way this usually goes for me. It's been one of those days where RV life has reminded me very clearly of who's really in charge, and I'm pretty sure it's not me. Stick around, because after we run the intro, we've got a thoughtful Christmas surprise for Kit with a little suspense. We've got a real-time RV repair that literally just happened, a flat tire that derailed plans, some well-earned gratitude for great customer service, and an Airmail Shoutout that's about showing up in real life. So, we're going to roll the intro, and then we'll get right into this.
Wake up with the sun in our eyes. Sally forth, no need for goodbyes. Journey calls, let's roll the dice. Every mile a new surprise.
And we're back. Okay, so I gotta say, first of all, this day has not gone at all in any way that I thought or intended it would. At this point, it's now after 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and I'm just recording the main part of our mailbag this week. So hopefully I'm going to get it out on time. We'll see how fast I can work to get through this. We're going to start off with some holiday wishes coming to us from Crafty Traveler, who has mailed a Christmas gift specifically for Kit. However, because of mail forwarding delays, it hasn't arrived yet. She sent it in plenty of time, but I needed to wait for something else to show up to my mailbox in Texas before I could have it forwarded here to Quartzsite. So, hasn't arrived yet. Should be here tomorrow, actually. But the thoughtfulness alone meant a lot. So, Kit's official gift review will be coming next week once it lands. And that felt like the perfect place for me to pause and say, to those who celebrate, Merry Christmas. And to everyone else, I hope this season brings you something peaceful, grounding, or joyful in whatever way that looks like for you. And I'd love it if you share in the comments what you have planned this season, whether it's big or small or wonderfully quiet. I'm always happy to hear what's going on with you. So some real life updates for you. I'm going to start with the one that has me now recording at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I was about 2/3 of the way through recording this, and my editing program just crashed, and it was unrecoverable. Oh well. So we had to start over from right after the intro. But some other things have happened. I just literally, just before I started recording this, had an impromptu tank repair done while I was prepping this episode. So here's what happened. One of my campmates was having a pump truck come to pump out her trailer, black tank, gray tank, and I decided to go over and talk to the gentleman who actually pumped out my RV last year when I was laying on the sofa recovering from a broken foot for 7 weeks. And as you may or may not remember, if you've been here for any length of time, I have had a slow leak in my gray tank for about a year. Well, that slow leak has picked up in speed over the past month or so, so it's still a pretty slow leak, but it's becoming a little more embarrassing as time goes by. So I walked over to talk to the guy with the pump truck to see if he knows anybody in the area that will do tank work, because pretty much nobody wants to do that. And I'm pretty sure you can understand why. But he asked me what was going on, and I told him what I thought, which was that not only did I have a leak in my gray tank, but I thought I also had a leak at the valve. And he graciously offered to come over and take a look at it, and so he did. And when he got under there, one of the things we discovered is that not only did I have a crack in the gray tank, but that it is old. It had been previously repaired before I bought the rig, and that repair had failed, which is why it's now a bigger crack in the gray tank than it had been previously. So I think I'm going to plan on working my way into Elkhart this summer in my travels. Shouldn't be too big of a detour for me, I hope. And get my gray tank replaced and just be done with that, and then I'll be back to dumping my gray tank like a normal person. Anyway, what he was able to do, and we'll find out whether or not this has actually worked. First, he pumped out my gray tank to get it as empty as possible, and then he had a tube of goop, yeah, literally goop, that's self-leveling, and he applied that to as well as he could to be able to close the gap. And he said, try not to run any water for 12 hours into the tank if you can avoid it, and hopefully that'll seal up, and I should be able to limp into Elkhart this summer to be able to get it fully addressed. But that's RV life. You make a plan, and then something taps you on the shoulder and says, not yet, or nice try. So, that brings me to the next story, because, there's always something going on in RV life. So a few days ago, I had planned to do a mobility mounting and dismounting demonstration on my e-trike and then ride my e-trike into town. You may or may not remember, or if you're new here, you may not have been aware, that one of our viewers had asked specifically about whether or not I thought an e-trike would be a good idea for somebody with mobility issues. And with a little more discussion, it was the mounting and dismounting that was of the greatest concern. So I'm committed to, demonstrating what that looks like and talking through it in the hopes of being able to help that person decide whether or not this is the right thing for them. So I uncovered my trike, and I discovered that the rear tire was flat, and not just flat. It wouldn't take more than about 10 psi, and then as soon as I stopped running the compressor, it dropped back down to 0 within just a few seconds. So again, pretty disconcerting to have to deal with that. So plans changed, and I reached out to Lectric, who's the manufacturer, and I want to say this clearly. Their customer service has been absolutely excellent. In fact, they're sending me a replacement tube, no hassles. And that's what really matters. And I guess I also need to say very, very clearly, Lectric is not a sponsor. We have no relationship other than the fact that I'm a customer, and they have excellent customer service. And this is not the first time. Shortly after I got here and I discovered when I took the trike off that one of the mirrors had broken, I called them up to see if I could buy a mirror, and they said, we don't sell them singly, they come in pairs, but, since this is brand new, we're just going to send you new mirrors. Okay, thank you very much. So once again, they sent me a new tube. Not their fault that I, got a busted tube. That's not their fault, that's my fault. I'm riding around on desert rocks. So, once again, Jim showed up. You might remember Jim from, I can't say helping, I'm going to say he installed my Extend-A-Stay for me, and we've had that video out for about a week or so. I'll try and remember to put a link to it up here for you. And he's already offered to help me when the new tube comes in so we can get the trike rolling again. So that kind of real world support is exactly what this community is all about. And for that reason, the Airmail Shoutout goes to Jim this week. He's not a frequent commenter, but he shows up, and that's what really counts. So thank you, Jim, not just for the tools and the know-how, but for showing up when the plans go sideways. This lifestyle works because people help each other, and you've done that more than once. And I appreciate having you as a friend and a camp neighbor. We're going to give an honorable mention for the shout-out this week, also to Crafty Traveler, though, for the thoughtful Christmas gift for Kit, and being a consistently generous presence in this community. So let's jump into the mailbag comment, shall we? So from Theodore, Roosevelt National Park, Badlands, hiking and scenic roads. We were exploring the dramatic landscapes, we were hiking a little bit, and enjoying the scenic drives at Theodore Roosevelt's National Park in North Dakota. Kentucky Lady 5762 says, I love the Dakotas. Oh, I miss all that white sage. Great to see them with you. Thank you for sharing. There's really something about the Dakotas that stays with you, especially that white sage and the wide open feeling. I'm really glad that this brought back some good memories for you, and I appreciate you taking the time to watch and to comment. JMKC740 says, Sally and Kit, looks like a fun time, very jealous, LOL. Hey Josh, it really was a fun stretch of the journey, and a little jealousy is understandable. Kit sends paw waves right back to you. Gimbal Girl says, wow, so beautiful, so different than the eastern half of North Dakota. I lived in Fargo for a few years, but never made it past Minot. Don't think I ever made it to Bismarck. It's amazing how different the western side of the state feels compared to the east. And I haven't spent much time in the eastern part of the state, but it's like two different states. Fargo to Theodore Roosevelt National Park is a big shift. If you ever make it back, the western side is absolutely worth the trip, in my opinion. Crafty Traveler 9238 says, "Thanks for the video. Yes, I need to get back to see that side of the park." You're very welcome, Lonnie. And yes, that side of the park really does deserve a return visit. I'd love to hear what you think when you get back out there. G. Gebhard 1 says, "This is beautiful, but I love the South Dakota Badlands a whole lot more. My father was in the CCC and worked at Mount Rushmore. They give a great presentation about the CCC members and talk about the jobs that they performed. They also have a nice little museum with many photos. I couldn't find any photos of my father. My father was 17 when he joined." Thank you so much for sharing this. That's a really powerful piece of history. The CCC did some incredible work, and it's amazing to think that your father was only 17 when he joined. Even without a photo, his contribution absolutely matters, and I'm glad you shared this story here. And we found a CCC museum in Hill City, not far from Mount Rushmore. Barb and I both spent a fair amount of time wandering through there. They had displays outside of some of the equipment and stuff, and listings of like how many projects they worked on in the Black Hills area and so forth. And we talked to a guy who was running the museum. Super, super nice. We got stickers. So yeah, CCC and WPA, both projects that did a lot of good in this country. So pretty cool. Barb Connor says, "North Dakota was so beautiful, and it's so nice to be able to look back." It really was beautiful, Barb, and you're right. Being able to look back through these videos is one of the unexpected gifts of documenting the journey. We're back with G. Gebhardt again. Just a little skip over there. With the question, was the southern part of Theodore Roosevelt Park more beautiful than the northern part? I'm doing that park next summer. I hope you also saw the theater play at Medora, North Dakota, and had the steak dinner. It's fabulous. That's a great question. And I can't say more beautiful. I really enjoyed both sides. South unit might be a little bit more dramatic and expansive, but the North unit is got a really quiet charm all its own. And if you can do both next summer, I highly recommend it. And don't skip Painted Canyon. It's a rest stop on the highway there, between the South Unit and the North Unit. Sadly, I missed the Medora musical and steak dinner this time, and in part because that was more than Kit would have been able to handle. But I may get there eventually. We did go check out the Chateau de Moraes, which was pretty cool, and had a good time with that. So there's a lot to see and do in that area. We also had a really good bison burger at, I think it was called the Little Missouri Brewing Company. Gimbal Girl says, "Interesting little factoid about Teddy Roosevelt for those who don't know. Teddy Roosevelt was climbing Mount Marcy, which is the highest peak in New York, when President McKinley was killed. Men had to literally go up and bring him down. There are various local theories about when he was officially sworn in, which include the carriage ride from Newcomb to North Creek, possibly at Aden Lair where they changed horses, on the train at North Creek, or when he was back in Washington. I may be wrong, but I think the generally accepted one is that he was on the train in North Creek." Well, there's a pretty interesting piece of history, huh? So, yeah, that's fascinating, actually. Thank you for sharing that. The circumstances around Roosevelt stepping into the presidency really add depth to understanding the man and the era. I love when the community brings in details like this. And I think part of what really struck me about the Theodore Roosevelt National Park units was what an influence he had on just the fact that we have all of these national parks and preserved lands, which is really very, very cool. From the video, this simple RV upgrade solves a huge problem. This was installing the Extend-A-Stay, which Jim did for me, and really does solve an access issue with that. Sorry, I don't know why I'm stuttering today. Lisa Roth says, "Awesome. Jim's going to have to let his family know he's famous." Yeah, I think he's already enjoying his moment of fame. His son did comment on that video, but I'll let him know that he was a big hit, both in person and hopefully he sees this on video as well. And of course, as always, thanks so much for watching, Lisa. G Money Is It says, I'm planning to get one of those propane extenders. I will put it with my electrical extension in case I ever need it. You never know. Thanks for the video. That's exactly how I think about it, Dorian. One of those upgrades you hope you don't need often, but you're really glad to have it when you do. And I'm glad the video helped. If I had had this done before I got to Yellowstone, I would have had unlimited heat. Would have been awesome. But as it was, it all worked out. We had a community post where I talked about the differences between Posa North and Posa South. And part of that is that Posa North seemed to be much quieter, and South has all of the amenities and activities going on. So, Lysand? I have no idea what name that's actually supposed to be. Sorry, I'm probably butchering it. Lysand 4617 says quiet and spread out for sure. Because the question I asked was, which do you prefer? Do you want the hustle bustle or do you want the quiet and spread out? And I hear you. I mean, quiet and spread out has a lot going for it, and especially when you just want to breathe a little. For me, personally, I really prefer quiet and spread out. I don't always get it. JMKC740 says, Sally, Kit, and Barb, hope you're having a great time. Quiet is usually my jam, LOL. Hey, Josh, we are. And thanks for the good wishes. It's usually my jam, too. Though every once in a while, a little activity is fun. And Kit agrees, mostly. Not completely, but mostly. Barb says, both, depending on my mood. That feels exactly right, Barb. Mood definitely plays a role. Some days it's solitude, some days it's people. From a video, Easy and Delicious Cauliflower Celery Soup. This was a simple soup recipe from 3 years ago. I actually made it in my Sticks and Bricks kitchen, even though I didn't publish it until after I was on the road. But nice to see that it's still helping people. And Joe Luke says, do you use any spices? And I actually went and looked at her YouTube channel to get the name, which is Lucy. So it's a great question, Lucy. When I make this soup now, I usually add a bunch of fresh dill, a bit of salt, and a fair amount of fresh black pepper. But I really recommend starting light, especially while it's cooking, and especially if this is your first time doing it, and then adjust the seasoning at the end to get the taste that you're looking for. I don't think it's possible to go wrong with too much fresh dill, though. And if you don't have fresh dill, use dried dill, just use less of it. From the video, New Mexico State Parks 2025 Fee Hikes Spark Controversy. Again, this is an older video where I discuss the impact of the new New Mexico State Park fee structure on travelers, particularly out-of-staters. So the video is over a year old at this point, but the fee structure didn't go into effect until 2025. At Nomadic Living says, after going through all the fees and costs, I think the pass is no longer worth it, speaking especially for non-residents. That's my parenthetical insert there. So maybe I'll spend a month or two in New Mexico instead of next winter. And I think maybe that's instead of Arizona next winter, which is something I've thought about for a few years about putting on my travel agenda, but it's not really a good deal. I already pay for camping memberships that would not be able to use in New Mexico, so the annual pass is just not worth it for an out-of-state traveler. And I think that's a pretty fair assessment, especially for out-of-state travelers. I was glad to have had the full season in Mexico before the new rates went into effect. I still love the state and I'll visit, but I'll likely lean more on the abundant free boondocking rather than extended time in the state parks. And for those of you that don't know, up until 2024, a non-resident could get a New Mexico State Park Pass for $225, which was good for an entire year. And so the year started from the date that you bought the pass and extended until the end of the 12th month after you bought the pass. So if, for example, you bought the pass on February 2nd, it didn't expire until February 28th or 29th, if it was leap year, of the following year. So you got the full month of whatever month you purchased it in. And with the New Mexico State Park Pass, you could dry camp for free, no hookups, or water and electric were $4 a night. Screaming bargain, no doubt about it. Raising the rates was absolutely appropriate. The level to which they raised the rates, I believe, was inappropriate, as you can tell from watching my video. So now a New Mexico State Park Pass is $600 a year, for out-of-state residents. It's cheaper for residents, but it's still more than it should be, in my opinion. And the nightly rates have gone up. I think water and electric is now $10 a night. And the whole fee structure has become very strange. I did a full video on it. I'll try and remember to put a link to that here. Probably won't actually do that because I'm going to run out of time to get this thing published. But interesting subject for sure. And so for all of you, thanks again for being here. Thank you for your patience and for the way that this community shows up, both online and in real life. If you haven't already, drop me a comment. Let me know what you got planned for this season. And comments on any of the videos, comments on this video. And please know that because I've been so busy and I only answer comments on my computer, I can't do it on my phone. The screen's too small. It's too difficult for me to be able to do that. So when I read your comment on my phone, I'll give you a thumbs up so you know that I've seen it. But it could be a few days or so before I actually get to your written response, depending on when I can get the computer out and sit down and do that. So, until next week, and Kit's gift reveal, I think that's all we've got for now. So we'll see you soon. Bye for now.